We're about to begin the service for Mr. Aaron Reinglass. I would ask you, please, if you have a cellular phone, to please turn it to the off position. We also welcome those that are online on the live stream. Officiating our service today will be Rabbi Barry Schechter.
Mizmor David. Adonai, mi yagub yolecha, mi yishkon behar kodshecha, holech tamim, u'foel et tzedek, v'dover emet bilvavo, lo ragal lo leshono, lo asal reyehu ra, v'cherpa lo nasa al kravo. Nivze b'inav nimas, v'et yerei Adonai yechabed, nishpal ara v'lo yamir, kaspo lo natan b'neshech, v'shochad al nakil alakah. O seyeile lo yimot li'olam. God, who may abide in your house? Who may dwell in your holy mountain? Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who give their word and come what may, do not attract, who do not exploit others. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken. Dear friends, we're here for a sad and difficult occasion to say goodbye, which is one of the most difficult things that we can ever do, but also to pay tribute and to honor the memory of Aaron Reinglass, his son of Francis and Jack, Aaron Ben Yaakov Francis, who's gone to his eternal rest, and leaves behind a family and friends who loved him very dearly. His children, Jason, Hillary and Hervilia, brother Howard, Judy, to whom he was married, mother of his children, and as I said, many friends. I know you are here today, and if we had less of this COVID, and if the weather were a little friendly, I know we'd have even more people than we do have today. And we're going to begin by hearing from the family. So I'm going to call on Howard to speak to us about his brother.
Hello there. Thanks for coming. Aaron was 6 years older than me, and Aaron was a force of nature, especially when we were boys. He was like a planet unto himself, and we were all revolving around him. He was that strong a person. Now, I know you didn't know him when we were boys, but he was a leader of the band. That's all I can tell you. And while I was not like my brother in many ways, he had an orbit of friends, and in the 60s when we were kids, he would lead the friends. And I mean, in the 60s, you know what it was like living in America. Many of you don't, but I'll explain it to you. There was rock music, there was political defiance, not a whole lot different than today. But Aaron was the guy who walked down the street with the bell bottoms, the Fu Manchu, and everything that went with it. And he was a strong influence on my life. We had, I mean, how many kids in the 60s had their own Volvo? Mustard yellow. It was a Volvo with a stick, and boy, if that car could talk, I'm sure there were a lot of stories it would tell. But that was my brother growing up, and you know, Mom and Dad were always hoping and praying with him. They had their fingers crossed, and he definitely took great care of them and was a wonderful son to them. During the 70s, Aaron was at the Exchange, and I followed him there. And what most people don't understand is that we actually worked in the same business. And from the mid-70s, for about 30 years, we worked together. And we were always looking over each other's shoulder, watching out for each other. We had our differences, and we always couldn't breach them. But I can tell you a story that he was also a force of nature at the Exchange. He found opportunities in the Exchange with some of the legends of our business. And things I couldn't do, he could do, but there were things I could do, he couldn't do. And I'll just leave you with this. On September 11th, when that second plane hit the tower, I went looking for him, and he went looking for me, just to make sure we're both okay, and that we had a plan. And I will miss him very much. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Howard, for those lovely words. And now, which one of you is going first? I'm sorry. Yeah, Jason, go ahead, please. Jason will talk about his dad.
So I was trying to write a eulogy yesterday formally for my dad, writing notes down, and there was so much to talk about that I thought that maybe something too formal might not be appropriate. I actually might just go from the heart and speak in that way. You really couldn't have a dad who was a bigger supporter of you and a bigger backer of you. You know, my father's story is always an immigrant story, just like his brother and just like his cousins, and it was a huge aspect of his identity. And even though he was, you know, as Howard stated, you know, even though, you know, my grandparents were a huge aspect of his life, and knowing where he came from and heritage and family were a tremendous aspect of his life, he was also, you know, kind of first generation in a lot of ways. And really a lot of his forays into American life, whether it be baseball or rock and roll music or history or politics and what are going on in America, really translated into how he raised my sister and I. But I feel like, especially with me, was something that really was a formative element in who I became as an adult. You know, I can say one of the biggest things is we got to see a White Sox win a World Series in our lifetime. Was a major event, I'll say that. But I'd say the biggest thing is my father was a huge, you know, you can say things a lot about my dad. He was a warm guy, always there for a hug. He was a dreamer, a storyteller, without question. And there was a vitality in him always about life. You know, one of the biggest things that my father ever introduced to me was music, which is a huge aspect of who I am, certainly. There were many other things, but definitely music was a huge component. And I'll still even remember when I was a kid, my mom and dad got me my first Fender Stratocaster, and I got home, and it was something I knew I was wanting, and I came home, and it totally shocked me. And ever since then, till he was gone, my father never missed a moment to encourage me to keep playing music, to follow my passion. Even with my friend Dan, who's here today, and he even came to a show before I moved back down to Champaign, and he was so excited that Dan and I were playing together. and then we were rocking out together, and he never missed a moment to say, play it loud, go, you know, I can even picture him right now in heaven with Jerry Garcia rocking out as we speak. And that was a huge aspect of who he was. Even though he was a traditionalist in a lot of ways, he was also a believer in following who you were as a person, regardless of what that was. Your passion, your interest, whatever identity you believe in, like, be who you are. And that was a huge aspect of something that my dad taught me. And I mean, also, I think film, my other major passion, is definitely something that my dad passed on to me. And even though, you know, these are kind of artistic pursuits, I'd say that it became a crucial aspect of how I see the world and how he saw the world. You know, he and I could, you know, even something as simple as a Mel Brooks movie or a Woody Allen line that might seem, you know, simplistic to some people, can really change and alter how you see humanity and how you see the people around you and how you treat the people around you. And I know that being around his friends was a crucial aspect of my dad's life, even with Alan, who I think is one of his oldest friends in the world. I know that he cared about them deeply and about my grandparents substantially. It was a huge aspect of, you know, anybody who kind of came from that, from the kind of Holocaust immigrant experience. And that's something that I think was always a hallmark of how we were raised. So I wanted to say that, you know, I'm going to miss him intensely. It's really kind of a shock to not be able to pick up the phone and talk to him for advice, or to even just hear his voice and, you know, talk about how the Sox are playing, or talk about how something in my life is going, and hearing his perspective on it. Not being able to talk politics with him and bicker and fight about, you know, and kind of about economics or history or anything like that, and or what's going on in the world. And I know that the things that I'm going to take on with me, you know, he encouraged me to keep going with my passions and my interests and be who I am. And I know that that's going to stay with me forever. So I want to say I love my father, and I'm going to miss him dearly. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Hillary, you want to come?
I'll try.
You try. Take deep breaths.
Okay. Let's see if I can get something out. I really wanted to say this from the heart. As I was trying to decide how to speak here today, I actually felt more connected to speak to my father as if he's here, because I really believe he is. And as much as this is a goodbye, I don't feel really like it's a goodbye. It's more of just a transition into a different phase of his spirit, of his being, on his journey of his soul. And so Dad, I love you. It's very surreal talking to you and seeing his face. It's like, it's very surreal. Honestly, I thought that we had more time, and that's okay, because he needed to go when he went. My dad really was my hero my whole life, and he really took care of us so well. He valued family more than anything, and as Jason mentioned, you could call him at any time. You could really talk to him and call him at any time. He would always be there for you no matter what. You call him at 2 a.m. and the police are at your door, he'll come. You know, anything. And that really taught me loyalty and unconditional love. And I'm so grateful for that. And whenever, you know, we went on adventures, whenever I sort of left and went on adventures to California or Israel, he was really always with me and always 100% there no matter what. Sort of having adventure together. You know, he would really feel that in his heart, that he was with me, and I felt that too. Especially at a very hard time in my life when my parents, they split. Sorry, Mom, I had to say that. When they split, you know, Dad really stepped up as a father, and I never forgot that. From then on, we were best friends. We were inseparable. Sorry, Dad. I'm sorry, Dad. I love you. I wish that I spent more time with you, but I did my best. And you will always be in my heart forever. And you will go on adventures with us. And I'm here with you anytime. And you're here with us. I love you, you puppy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you, all three of you, for these wonderful pictures of a remarkable man. When I spoke to you, Jason and Hillary, you told me a great deal about his, not just his history, but his parents' history, which was really part of your lives. His parents survived the horrors of the Holocaust, and they met after the war in Sweden, in a place I'm going to try and pronounce now. You'll tell me if I have it right. Eskilstuna. Yes? I said it right. Good. That was my main worry about today. You told me how the Red Cross put them and your uncle, your great uncle Arnold and his Bernice, put them in touch with a cousin in Chicago. They came to Chicago, and that's where he grew up. And as you heard from Howard, as you said, he was a force of nature.
As a young man, he was the leader of the band.
The leader of the band. And I think to some extent later on as well. Maybe less, but still someone who was, he didn't do things by halves. Right? He didn't do things by halves. He was wholly involved, whatever it was. On the edge, I like that. Now, I haven't mentioned religion at all, so I'm a rabbi, I should. So I will mention something which he was very religious about, namely the White Sox, which was an event for you, apparently, yes? Every year. You know, in the Torah, we're told that 3 times a year, everyone would go up to Jerusalem. Well, you went once a year to see the White Sox. And he was, well, I was going to say a fan, but you actually said a fanatic. And that was part of your lives as well. He loved comedy, right? He loved films that had comedy in them. And as you mentioned, he was a child indeed of the 60s, an avid rock and roll fan. He was a wonderful conversationalist, you said. He told stories. And if he called a friend, they could talk for hours. If he was talking, if he could put a joke into something, then he would. That was part of that sort of effervescent nature that he had. I mentioned the Sox games, but it was more than that. Jason, he coached your little league team. And Hillary, when you were in college, Jason, he took you to the World Series. He talked about the Mercantile Exchange, which he worked for so many years. He had many, many, many friends there. Everyone there spoke so highly about him. And when new people came in, he would take them He would take them under his wing. And you know, I don't know if there are any people here from the exchange, if anyone's come, any friends have managed to be here. As you mentioned, you mentioned you could call him at any time at all, and he would drop everything to be there with you. When you lived in Israel, you talked about your living in Israel. He couldn't go to Israel, but vicariously, in a sense, he was in Israel through you. He was so proud. He said, my daughter's living in Israel. This gave him such joy, such nachas. The other things that you told me, and I told you, I mentioned to you that when we spoke, the fate of his parents, the Holocaust, this was something, when we spoke, you told me a great deal about that, and I said that was really an important part of your lives through him, your grandparents. You would visit, they would be in Skokie at the time, they'd be in Skokie for half the year. Not the winter, I hope, right? It was winter, they were in Florida, and you would go and visit. You would always go and see them. Jason, you went with your grandfather and your great uncle Arnold. You went to A.G. Beth Israel. You would go to the synagogue there. So, when we think about this family, this man to whom we are saying goodbye today, and we think about his parents, especially in what we are living through now again, which is unbelievable and very upsetting, that his parents managed to survive. Millions didn't. If they hadn't, of course, none of us would be here. You wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. And this is something to really to remember. He was a man with spirit, with verve, who loved things that he did and people passionately. And this is real love. This is someone you could rely on. He was like, as you said, he was your hero. But I want to tell you something. It's to Hillary, it's to the others as well. Hillary. And Jason as well, but I think Hillary even more. What would he want for you to do, to be now? He would want you to come into his inheritance in the sense that, as you said, in spirit, you feel he is with you. If that's the case, you can't speak directly to him, but if that's the case, then let him be a source of strength for you. I'm not saying you shouldn't grieve. We have to grieve. We have to mourn. But as we're doing this goes on for a period, and we can't really control it. But we can think, and sometimes I found this has helped people, I know it's helped me when I've had losses, to think, what would my mother or my father want me to do with my life? And that thought alone has given strength. So take whatever you can from his life, because that's what we do, isn't it? When we have someone that we love and admire, there's an inheritance they leave us. I'm not talking about property or money or anything like that. It's something else. It's about the person. And we have to try and come into that inheritance, that Yerusha, that Morasha, as we call it in Hebrew. So, as we say goodbye to him, we should also say to ourselves, not just I love you, as you said, of course, that's only appropriate, but also I will try to come in to the inheritance that you left. The spiritual inheritance, the moral inheritance. You call it whatever you like. I think that's very important, and it can be a source of strength. He's at peace now. Although, as you said, as I said before many times, in Jewish tradition, this is not the end. This is not the end. We don't understand it. There's no way we possibly can understand it. It's not the end. And I'm not saying that, he's in another world where he's coaching baseball. I mean, although if there is, and it's possible, he would be doing it. But in the sense that we can understand now, in the physical sense, that the only one we know, he's at peace. And of him I say, Tahei nishmato tzurura b'tzuror hachayim. May his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. And to him I say, Aaron, Lech b'shalom, geh in Frieden, go in peace. Hobalech in Gan Eden, may your repose be in paradise. You will never be forgotten. You will always be remembered in love by those who knew you and loved you, and those whom you knew and you loved. Amen. And now we're going to read, if you will join me please, the 23rd Psalm. If you open these pamphlets, it's at the top of the page on the left. So please read with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Could I ask you to stand, please, if you can? If it's difficult for you to stand, stay seated. And did you get a ribbon? How is it doing? Did they give you a ribbon? Yeah, wait one second. Do you have? Yeah, we'll get you a ribbon. But what we're going to do now is this. You'll get you a ribbon. We're going to cut these ribbons, and we'll say a bracha. I'll say it with you when we cut them. It's a sign of mourning. Traditionally, in very orthodox circles, of course, they actually tear their clothing. They put a tear in clothing. We use a ribbon. So we'll do it just 1 second. So, if you'd like to come together when now, could you share your own ribbon? I'm sort of on the or two for each other, just from the bottom a little bit. Just like. You do? You've done. So we'll say this bracha. If other people want to join, they can. So it's the usual bracha, but bracha at the end there are 2 words which I will take. Right. So let's begin. Baruch atah Dayan Ha'emet. Which means, blessed be the true judge. We said it again, this last got in the way. Blessed be the true judge, which is what we say when we suffer a loss. Veil male rachamim, sholchein bamromim. Ametzei menucha nechona tachat כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כי זוהר הרקיע מסעירים את נשמת אהרון בן יעקב ופרנסיס, שהלך לעולמו, בעבור שאנחנו נודרים מצדקה, ביד אזכרת נשמתו, בגן עדן תהי מנוחתו. לכן בא לרחמים, יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור ביצרו רחם את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר Amen. Passion of God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament, under the soul of Aaron Reinglass, the son of Jack and Francis, who has entered eternity and in whose memory we offer charity. May his repose be in paradise. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. And now we will conclude the prayer part of the service with the Kaddish, the Mourner's Kaddish, which you have in English letters on the back of this booklet. That is for those who are in mourning, that is to say those who are wearing the ribbons, but anyone else who wishes to can join, please do. If you don't join, you can respond. One of the responses, I'm sure you know, but I'll remind you, is very simple. When we say Va'imru, you say Amen. And that happens several times. If you know the other responses, please join with those as well. Let's begin. Yit gadal ve'yit kadash shemei rabba v'yalma divrach hirutei ve'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael b'gala u'v'zman kariv ve'imru. Everyone, Amen. Yehei shemei rabba mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha brichu le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Friends, you may be seated for a moment. In just a moment, we're going to go outside, the final resting place, Mr. Reinglass. I want to let everyone know to please be extra careful when you leave the cemetery today. It is still slippery out there, and drive careful. The conditions are not in the best place throughout the community. Shiva will take place immediately at 3 o'clock, beginning at 3 p.m. Chicago Jewish Funerals, 8851 Skokie Boulevard in Skokie will be today from 3 to 7, and tomorrow from 3 to 7. Memorial contributions have been requested by the family to go to the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center, 9603 Woods Drive, Skokie, Illinois. Both those pieces of information on our website and also on the folders that you hold. At this time, I'm going to ask everyone to please rise as Mr. Reinglass and the family are escorted outside. Thank you.